Boom! We're back, and today we are finishing up the tournament series and going over the last matches. In the last video, we saw that Mike was able to get second place in his second tournament doing the advanced no-gi division. We also moved on to Josh, who lost his first match in the gi white belt division. But make sure to check out my link in the description below if you want to get awesome gear from xmartial.com and save money while you're at it. In Josh's next match, he was going against a wrestler, and I know this because his shirt said wrestling right on it. It took no time at all until his opponent shot a nice double leg in on him, and he got the first 2 points for the takedown. Naturally, being on top, he wanted to hold Josh down at close guard because he's established his 2-point lead. My advice to Josh from here was to get on his side so he wasn't pinned on the mat, then he could start shrimping. He was sort of listening to me, but his opponent was doing a better job listening to me, and he was trying to counter my coaching with his own techniques. It wasn't too long before they were reset in the middle of the mat because they were getting dangerously close to me, and I would have guillotined both of them with one arm. It's interesting to see that a white belt wrestler was allowed in this division because when I first started with competitions, they said wrestlers had to go at least into the intermediate divisions. Now at this tournament, they only go by ranks for the gi, so if you were a white belt, you go with white belts, blue with blue, etc, but I bet you this guy probably could have done fine in the blue belt division. Josh is able to get him back into full guard, and as he's here, he's looking to establish some control over the lapels, but his opponent's doing a nice job posturing up. His opponent's been dragging him around in this closed guard for quite a while, and I'd love to see Josh open his legs or start to set up some type of sweep, because clearly his game is not working up to this point. Josh does open his guard because he's thinking about going for an armbar, but he has absolutely no control over the arm, so he definitely shouldn't have done that, and he gets his guard passed immediately as his opponent shucked the leg by. Then his opponent also went into mount, so he got 3 points for passing guard, then he got 4 points for passing right into mount, bringing the score 9-0. Once Josh is in mount, he's flattened out really quickly by his opponent. His opponent just has to maintain some hip control on Josh, and we can see here that Josh has never watched one of my videos on how to escape the mount position. He's not getting out on his side enough, and he's staying pinned on his back. Josh finally gets to his side, but his opponent is smart and transfers his weight towards his head. Then he hooks under the arm and he can set him up for a nice gift wrap or an armbar or other bad positions. Josh is able to get his back to the mat, but we can see a prime example of what dead hips look like and how not to please a woman. His opponent is wasting no time and he starts setting up an armbar, and Josh is doing a nice job locking his arms together, and then he goes back towards guard. Unfortunately, his opponent is continuing to spin, and this puts them back in the mount position, but Josh is still maintaining arm control here, so he's not going to get armbarred even when his opponent tries switching to the other arm. His opponent is smart and he goes to remount because losing the position for a submission is never worth it. His opponent then tries to set up a head and arm choke, and he dismounts to side control to try and finish, but unfortunately for him, they run out of time. So Josh loses this match 0-9, and you're probably wondering, when is the animal going to come out of Josh that you saw in the thumbnail? Well, Josh was biding his time until the next match, and I gave him a little friendly coaching advice. I told him not to go home with 3 losses and to go kill the guy. Josh's new match gets started right away, and his opponent's name is Arnold. These two engage in some extremely intense white belt wrestling known as just grabbing the gi and pushing back and forth. Eventually, Josh's opponent goes for a sacrifice throw, but Josh counters him and pushes him down, but does not get 2 points for this takedown. This is the first strike to build Josh's rage meter because he's not happy that he's not getting any takedown points in his matches. Eventually, Josh is able to push the leg down and is trying to pass into side control, but his opponent's doing a nice job creating some frames against him and trying to get his knee reinserted. Josh eventually does pass this guard, and he can set up a nice 3-point lead over his opponent. Unfortunately for Josh, his opponent pushes against him, which allows the knee to come in, then he can shove him back into full guard. They're reset in the middle of the mat, and Josh wants to make sure that he has some points on the score. So he sees he has a 3-point lead, and now he can stall a little bit, and he's shoving the arm down from the full guard position. Josh eventually listens to me when I tell him to shove the leg down so we can start working a pass. He looks for a knee cut, but his opponent is doing a good job bringing his right leg in to prevent Josh from completely passing this guard. Remember, you have to hold the position for 3 seconds, but his opponent is definitely able to get his knee in before that 3 seconds elapses. His opponent then is able to work up to his knees, and we get to see some more great white belt wrestling before they go out of bounds and Josh pops off. Now, I don't really know why Josh did this, but his opponent had to tie his belt, and as he did this, Josh wanted to maintain eye contact with him the entire time. He would not break focus at all while his opponent was tying his belt, despite this lasting really about 15 seconds. At this point, it's all over for Arnold because Josh has entered bath salts mode. He pushes forward and gets a quick trip to get his first takedown and get a 2-point lead over his opponent. They go out of bounds, and even on the break, Josh is still pissed. He can't wait to get back in the action and push his opponent down into the ground. The first task that Josh has is to open this guard guard, but unfortunately bath salts don't make you better at jiu-jitsu, they just make you angrier and tougher. Arnold makes a huge mistake. He's trying to go towards his knees and go to turtle against this monster bath salts Josh. Unfortunately for Arnold, he goes to stand up and Josh is gonna pick him up and slam him to the mat and somehow not get disqualified for the throw. He then passes immediately into mount, shoves his fist in the neck and gets a quick submission and pop off against his opponent. Josh is still fuming from the salts and he continues to walk around the mat. He then takes it out on his belt, picks it up and furiously puts it on. He shakes his opponent's hand and then he gets his hand raised, but the salts are still coursing through him. That was a great win for our boy and I like seeing him get a little angry. Unfortunately, the salts ran out for Josh. He had to wear this kid's belt, and now he had a tougher and new opponent who immediately puts him in guard. Now there's nothing wrong with being on top in closed guard, except for this opponent actually had a bottom guard game for a white belt. He opened his guard to throw the legs over the shoulder to set up first a triangle. Then he's going to rotate his hips again, and he's going to set up an armbar. He's even trying to go under the legs of Josh so he can scoop him right into mount. Eventually he's able to extend his legs, pushing against Josh's head, and he's able to get the tap from Josh. This guy went on to win the gold for this white belt division, so good job by him. Unfortunately, bath salts Josh was short-lived because he was out of the tournament at this point, but it was still great to see him try out competition. For the last roll, we get to see our boy Xavier go up against another white belt. Xavier doesn't have much jiu-jitsu experience, but he still wanted to try at the tournament, which is a great mentality to have. Xavier starts off quick by going for a shot, but his opponent is easily able to stop the attack because he got underhooks, and now he's looking for his own standing guillotine. His opponent goes for a trip, but it doesn't work, and then they're back in the middle of the mat before Xavier goes for his own trip attempt. His opponent keeps his legs back, and then they both tie up, and Xavier decides to bring him down to the mat with a small snap, and now he's in the front head position. I wish Xavier went to wrestling class because he could easily have scored from this spot, but instead he goes behind and does not block the arm. Because of this, his opponent grabs his leg, and then he starts turning into Xavier's guard. Xavier does have some hooks in, and he's able to get his hips off the mat, but his opponent is going to continue to try and work out the back door. If Xavier could have scooted back, he would have been able to score the first lead with a nice 2-point lead from the takedown, but unfortunately his opponent gets out and then they get into this weird scramble where his opponent ends up in donkey mount. They next are reset in the middle of the mat because they're working at the corner. They're reset in the donkey mount position, which is completely foreign to Xavier and it does not bode well for him. His opponent is able to grab his left arm and you can't see it, but he's setting up an Americana. Xavier is then trying to bridge to stop this, but he has to tap as it was pretty tight for an Americana, and unfortunately he lost this match. Xavier had other matches in the bracket, but I was too busy filming other people at the same time that I was not able to capture all of his roles. The tournament was a lot of fun, but also a long day. It was nice to see that some of our guys like Matt got some great submissions, but ultimately at the end of the day, we were all super hungry. So we left the gym, and now everybody gets to see the healthy diet that these athletes have after competition. Now if you're like me, you probably think healthy and you think Five Guys is the first thought that comes to your mind, because there's no healthier food than American food. This wraps up the tournament series, so if you appreciate the videos, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out X Martial if you want to get great rash guards from their website, and you can use my link in the description below to save some money. I will be tying all these videos together and adding some extra cuts in the future if you want to see it. Thanks for watching.